everybody. Welcome to Go Comedy. It's now time for Let's Just Say. Give it up to your host, Natalie Walker.
Good evening. How are you all? I love it. Okay, welcome to Let's Just Say. It is the monthly storytelling event that we have here at Go Comedy. Please clap if this is your first time here. That is awesome. So I wanted to let you know, just to introduce who I am. So my name is Natalie, and I'm going to be your host to introduce these lovely storytellers over here who have decided to brave their souls and tell you the tea for the theme of Frenemies. So, I can't wait to hear and I can't wait to judge. Anyway, okay, so the way it's going to work is that we're going to have each storyteller come up and tell a story that's going to be true about themselves, and then we will have a really great time. So make sure you have your drinks, tip your bartenders, know where the bathrooms are, which are over there, and I'm excited to have you here. The first thing before we get started to introduce our first storyteller is that I'm going to tell a story just to get them warmed up and tell you about my own story of frenemies. So I used to work with this woman who is named we'll call her Melody. I realize that we live in Metro Detroit and everyone is interconnected in this town. So Melody is not a person that is very lovely to talk about. She and I were exact opposites at work. So we both are in the sales job, and I looked at it as being friendly and wanted to talk to people, and Melody was cutthroat. First off, she looked differently from me. We were complete opposites in appearance as well. Like, she was tall and blonde, and I am dark-haired and, well, I'm still waiting for my growth spurt. Don't ask how long that's been. There would be times where we would be the first and second salesperson and, hit these goals and all this revenue and all this corporate bullshit, and she would be all for it, and she would we used to be commission-based before we went to salary, and she would, if she could speak Spanish and I didn't, so if I had a person or a client that spoke Spanish, I would ask for her help, and she would be like, "Hi, can I have half that commission?" And I was like, "Why?" She was like, "Because I wrote something in Spanish for them." Okay, our commissions were $75 per sale, so she was literally asking me to put $37.50 for her to get a commission. And I just started laughing. I was like, "You can have your $37.50 if that makes you sleep at night, whatever, lady." And so I would get a promotion, she would get a promotion. If I got a promotion or hit a sales goal, she would then tell people. It's just because Natalie has a good leadership. She's not really that good. There would be meetings at our corporate office where everybody went around the room and recognized me for hitting and surpassing and training these new salespeople, and because part of my job is to be a mentor and a trainer. And she would be like, she's okay. Everybody else would clap, and she was like, eh. So anyway, I wasn't that sad to see her go. I hope she's well somewhere in the world. I do know that she is excelling somewhere and doing that. I do hope that she has made a friend somewhere. But I will say this. There's something about her, though, that I will begrudgingly want to tell you all this. Because of the fact that we were so different, and then I looked at my job as such a more relational and wanted to get along with everybody, but she was such more cutthroat and goal-oriented. I have to tell you, though, it made me a better salesperson. I don't like saying it because she wasn't very kind to me, but I will tell you that she made me a better salesperson because of it. So raise your glasses to Melody, wherever you are. Hey. Bye. Melody. I'm going to now introduce you to our first storyteller. So our first storyteller has told a couple of stories here on the Let's Just Say stage. When she's not telling stories here, she is a therapist. She is part of the Metro Detroit Improv Group. She has a fan club over here, so I want to make sure we recognize them. And she also is part of a drum circle facilitation. When she is she believes in trying to help people, one person and one therapy job at a time. Please welcome to the stage, Jamie!
like a better intro than who I am as a person. Actually, on that note, those of you who know me, some of you I don't think have heard this story, so it'll be a little surprising. This is about simultaneously losing and gaining a best friend. So I've been to Western for undergrad, Western Michigan, and freshman year I go in blind in terms of the dorms. I go in blind, say, okay, we're gonna do this, and meet all new people. And I'm pretty outgoing. Like, Natalie put me first. She said, because you've got a lot of energy. I'm like, she do, but sometimes that gets me in trouble. So, freshman year, I'm making friends, living with who knows who, and throughout the year, kind of picking out, all right, we get along, we vibe, maybe next year we can all get a suite together, yeah? So, sophomore year, then I'm in a suite. So I got a little nuts. My best friend, current best friend, were living in one, and we had two friends in the one next door, and then we shared a bathroom. So 4 girls to this one suite. And then there was a 5th girl, Beth, who lived like down and around and on a different floor. With also, she went in blind, total strangers. And she was friends with my roommate, Julianne. Are we on here? Are we on board? Yeah, cool. So I'm living with Julianne. And Beth is wandering around, doesn't know anyone on that floor. She comes to find Julianne and hang out, and Julianne's not there. I'm doing the dorm girl thing, like, oh, let me hang some string lights, let me hang some stuff on the thing, and we're in bunk beds. So I'm on this bunk hanging things, and Beth walks in. She's like, hey, is Julianne here? I'm like, no, but I'm here, my name's Jean, you wanna be friends? Hi! And so Beth was like, oh, I know, just let me know, just tell Julianne, tell Julianne I stepped by. And she's like literally backing out of the room. And so fast forward now, it's been a few weeks, I tell her she comes by. Beth realized I'm not psychotic, even though I sounded a little manic at the time. So Beth came around a little more often, and we all got to be really good friends. Enter the boyfriend. So Julianne starts dating someone. Now, Julianne and I were both a little boy crazy. So, admittedly. So Beth, more often than not, kept us safe, kept us sane, would be like, nope, he's a dick, yep, go for it, you know, don't you trust my judgment? We called her Mama Beth, all right? So, Julianne starts dating this guy. He's passionate, he's romantic, he's in love with her, he wants to sweep her away, keep her locked in the castle, take her from her friends. Yeah, right, it turned into the whole thing. And so we're kind of trying to, Julianne, do you maybe think that, do you think maybe he's not the best? Do you think that maybe he's not so great? And it's funny, roundabout little ADHD thought, I've been obsessed with Ted Lasso lately, and there was an episode about this, where Ted Lasso was like, you never say anything. You're gonna lose the friend. You never say anything. Well, we said something, and we held multiple interventions to try to essentially save our friend, right? So there were, realistically, times when we would be talking about her. And this was not one of those times. So, fast forward, we're watching Grace. Literally, we're not doing anything, we're watching Grace. This was the year of the Bob episode. And right. So, this is the year of the Bob episode, we're watching Grace, we're talking shit, and Julianne is taking a shower. She, over the last few months, had essentially almost, it's like, I don't want to take it too dark, but she kind of got poisoned by this guy. Because we were the threat. We became the one that kept her from her true love and didn't want her to be happy. So we became the targets. And so anytime we left, we were mocking her, obviously. No, we weren't. Anytime, we whispered, clearly we were talking about her. No, we weren't. But it just turned into a whole thing, So we're watching Grace, and we're laughing about something. And all of a sudden, and these are like heavy doors, heavy dorm doors. And then all of a sudden we hear this whoosh. She flies the door open and comes out of that bathroom like the Tasmanian devil, I shit you not. Hair wrapped, towel, she jumps at me, like lunges at me. She's like, I know you're talking about me. You bitch, I know you guys are talking about me. I had never been in a fight in my life, y'all. I'm like, what? Like, essentially. And it's the most, she's in a fucking towel. And I'm just like, get the fuck away. At one point, I'm like grabbing her towel. I'm like, stop. You know? And it was full Jerry Springer style. She gets up, she starts walking away to go back to the bathroom. She turns around for one last, like, I've got you. But I was right there, so I kind of like shut the bathroom door, like on her. And then it became trying to keep the demon in the, I was like, stop. And it took everything to just like keep trying to shut the door so this possessed demon didn't come eat our souls. And eventually she chilled the fuck out and moved that week. She moved out, Beth moved in, and Beth and I are still best friends to this day. We lived together for the next few years, and I gotta admit, I have no idea where Julianne is, if she's okay, if she's alive, but I'll tell you one thing. Thank you guys.
I totally envisioned like you working in like Ghostbusters when Sigourney Weaver turns into Zool. You were trying to contain her into the bathroom. So
Be gone!
I'm glad that you kept the demon over there. Also, I don't know if you understood that Jamie learned her therapy training right then and there while living in that dorm in college.
De-escalation 101.
There you go. Good job. Our next storyteller is a writer, a producer, and no stranger to, let's just say, they've told many a story here on this very stage. They actually was just in a production that I got to see called Take Out the Fucking Trash, which was this 80s action film. It was amazing, and he was amazing in it. So let's give a warm welcome to Terrence.
Attending a private school in an already tiny town meant I had less than 20 classmates in almost every grade. One such classmate was Luke Henry, and as far as I was always concerned, he was the most popular student in our grade. Possibly some other grades as well. He was someone I was always envious of because he could do everything I couldn't, and he made it look so easy. He was traditionally good-looking, taller than most students, but not so tall that that's what he was known for. Had the best grades, got the lead roles in class plays, had good hair, excelled in gym class and sports, and was considered an excellent singer. I always felt overshadowed by his ability to excel effortlessly. For example, he was always the winner of the class spelling bee and went on to represent our school at the district events. One year I actually got second place, which meant I got to go with him, but when we arrived at the big event, I got so freaked out by the crowd and then the actual audience that I burst into tears and was taken home by my very disappointed parents before ever spelling a single word. For Luke, public speaking came naturally. 30 years later, and I'm still holding a script in my hand in order to get through simply recounting events of my own life in front of an audience. I considered him a friend, and we were always at each other's birthday parties, but that didn't really mean much because we had so few classmates. Everyone was always at everyone else's birthday party. Even the class bully, and nobody actually liked him. Things changed when we got to 6th grade. The number of students in our class had dwindled to 4. 2 boys and 2 girls. Those 2 boys were myself and Luke Henry, which meant I was by default the best friend of the most popular kid at school. As new best friends, we worked together on ideas to entertain ourselves. One idea was to found a school newspaper. Luke wrote the articles, did the layout, and made the copies for distribution. I drew a comic strip with text so small the final Xerox result was just smudges on smudges. I think we did about 3 issues of that before moving on to the next idea. We also wrote a screenplay together. Well, Luke wrote what we called a screenplay, but was more like a story outline with some dialogue, and I did a concept drawing for a poster. The script was for Home Alone 3, Lost in Tokyo, and the poster featured the Home Alone logo and Godzilla, and I would love to show that to you along with the script, but we were so proud of that thing, we found the address for Fox Studios and mailed it to them. They did not call us back. Our most famous creation, which was the most relevant to my own future path as an independent filmmaker, was the Jack and Steve Handy Show. Yes, I stole the name Jack Handy from Saturday Night Live, and no, our show did not feature a single deep thought. The Jack and Steve Handy Show was pretty much what you expect 2 religious 6th grade boys from Ohio to make with a camcorder and too much free time. It's just us sitting in my bedroom playing with puppets and making terrible jokes while talking to an unseen audience. Also, there's a number of non-ironic home improvement references in the movie. Good stuff. That was 6th grade, our final year of private school. Both of our parents decided to send us to the local public school for the rest of our school days, so when 7th grade began, Luke and I were now students at the Montpelier Junior High. Obviously, adolescence is an awkward time for everyone, and dealing with the culture shock of switching to a public school from a private one doesn't make it any easier. Going from a school where I literally knew every single student and teacher and lunch lady by name to one where I knew almost nobody, but they all knew each other, meant I had to get over my fear of crowds and strangers really quick. I couldn't even lean on my friendship with Luke because we almost immediately fell into different circles once we began our secular school careers. After getting adjusted to this new school, one of the first things that I did was develop a crush on a girl. Being in 7th grade and generally shy, I had no idea how dating or girlfriends or much of anything worked. I was too shy to ask anyone about how to go about expressing these new feelings, so it was up to me to figure out my own way of dealing with this. I took the tried, true, and traditional route of expressing my feelings in a letter. I looked up her family in the phone book to get her address, wrote her a letter where I claimed to be a fictional female cousin of myself, and explained my crush to her while including in the letter a quote from a teacher in a class that we had together. I signed that letter as Teresa Collins and mailed it with pride. Much to my genuine surprise, I got a phone call a couple of days later from a friend of my crush. She explained why it was obvious to basically everybody who read that letter. The next day at school, everybody knew who I was and how I botched a confession of love. This was how junior high began for me. My crush and I actually did become friends, and we talked often on the phone after school. She never flat out declined to date, but rather just kept saying we should be friends, and maybe someday we'd be closer. Undeterred, I hatched a new master plan to win her over. She had mentioned on one phone call that she thought chia pets were neat and delightful. That December, I saved my allowance and spent nearly every dollar on a goddamn chia pet. This used up my entire Christmas gift fund. So instead of real gifts, my parents received for me that year a set of anal flame lighters and a log. Christmas break from school meant I couldn't give the present to her there, and I was too young to drive and too embarrassed to ask anyone to take me to meet her. So, one winter day, as the snow drifted slowly over the roads, I hopped on my bike and rode to her house. As mentioned earlier, I'm from a small village. It's a farming community, and as such, many folks live out in the country, surrounded by miles of fields. Riding my bike to deliver this present meant riding 3 miles in the snow in the middle of nowhere. This was before GPS, so I was going on a route plotted on a map by myself. But I made it, damn it, and you bet your ass I made a goddamn impression riding my bike up that long snow-covered driveway to deliver a surprise Christmas present to her in front of her mother and 4 siblings. It was a rare moment of triumph. Naturally, word spread amongst my classmates once more. However, it spread beyond the school walls and made it to my church youth group, a group led by my parents. The same parents who had forbidden me from riding my bike beyond the city limits and had recently received terrible Christmas gifts. So, my bike was taken from me and I was grounded for a month. It was all worth it because I had to have left such a positive impression on this girl. She had to be willing to go out with me now, right? I mean, especially when she'd learned I sacrificed a month of freedom for her. So I eventually got the courage up once more to ask her out. I even did it on the phone like a normal person. She said no. She had a boyfriend. His name was Luke Henry.
So much to unpack. I don't even know where to begin. First off, I want Home Alone Tokyo to happen. So please figure out where that poster is and recreate that. We need that to happen. Also, I'm not sure where you thought that the cousin was going to help, but thank you, Teresa, for putting yourself out there. I also want to say thank you for the biking uphill, 3 uphill both ways. To her house, and the fact that you even plotted in a map that people don't even know how to do anymore. So I just really appreciate your commitment to these things, and I really want to know, what was that guy's name? Luke Henry, if you're out there, we want to know answers. So thank you so much. Our next storyteller should pretty much have a sleeping bag and a tent, because they're on the stage a lot, which is awesome for all of us because we get to hear some hilarious story that I already know is going to be amazing. So they have told stories here at Let's Just Say. They are here weekly for a limited run for a sketch show that's here every Wednesday with their troupe Gemini Junior. They also play 7 minutes down the road at Planet Ant on every Thursday called Ants in the Hall. So thank you for playing hooky with us today. So I am so excited to have the storyteller with us tonight and hear about Frenemies from Lori.
It's true, I do live here. But tonight you're going to hear a great story about high school Lori. So, you know, in high school you have like a good group of friends, and then you have some friends that are like, you know, they're in your classes or whatever. My group of friends I shared 0 classes with. Literally none. I have no classes with them. Still confused to this day how I actually met them, but it's going to be relevant to the story, I promise. So we were all hanging out. We're all good friends. We're all hanging out, doing our high school thing. I grew up in Royal Oak, so we all had cars. Mine was my dad's. A couple people had their own that their parents got them. You know, typical suburban high school life. One day, 3 of my friends decided to get together and bitch about me. It's totally cool. I mean, we all do it. Like, I'm not mad. What made this a frenemy is that they decided to tell me about it. They were like, Lori, we need to stage an intervention. Will you come over and talk? And I just talked to one of them, one of the 3. I'm going to change names to protect the frenemies. Matt was like, come on over, let's talk. And I was like, okay. So I don't even make it inside. He comes outside to sit in my car and he's like, listen, Amanda, Susan, and I, we're all having a talk. And we just wanted to like confront you about a couple things. And I was like, okay, yeah, go ahead. He's like, well, number 1, you talk about your mom too much. I'm going to preface this by saying that my mom passed away like 3 years before this. Yeah, so that was cool to hear. I was like, cool, awesome, nice. I'll stop that, I guess. Don't worry about my grief, you're just my friend. It can't get worse, right? That's pretty egregious. Cool, what's the next thing? Well, you know, you just like are always using these big words. And it makes us feel stupid. Here's where the relevant part comes in. They were all, I was in advanced classes and they weren't. So I guess they thought by proxy that meant I was some professional intellectual. If you're listening to me speak right now, you know that I am not. So I was like, cool, yeah, all right. There's more, and he's like, well, this one's just me. And I was like, okay. Matt, give it to me. He's like, it just really upsets me that you drive a nicer car than I do, and that we hang out at your house instead of my house. I go, number one, this is my dad's car, not my car. I don't own a car. You do. Your dad bought you a Blazer, remember? This is my father's car. Number two, do you know why we hung out at my house? Because my mom died and there wasn't a parent there all the time. Yeah. So, yeah, of course, if you're teenagers, you're going to hang out with somebody's parents, you're going to hang out at the house where there's no parents. Right. I'm going to preface this by saying we didn't drink or do drugs. We just didn't want parents there. So, I'm like, okay, I processed this. He's like, well, I'm going to go back inside now. Because I drove to his house. I mean, he lived 3 blocks from my best friend. Now, my best friend didn't go to school with us, and she was not in our friend group. And they were all terrified of her because she's frightening. And I called her sobbing, and I was like, oh my God, it's every time my mom, and she was like, tell him to come to IHOP right now. And I was like, okay. So we all meet up in the parking lot. We didn't go inside. We met in the parking lot at IHOP at Woodward. And my friend proceeded to rip all 3 of them a new asshole. Yeah. So the best part of this is, it's like a hierarchy. So the first friend that immediately when we got to the parking lot, my friend Amanda is like, I didn't know we were doing this. I was there and I acknowledged I was part of the conversation, but I thought that was ending it and I didn't think you'd ever hear, and I'm like really sorry that I said those things. I was like, you're cool. I forgive you. We all talk shit about each other. Come on, we're teenagers, like, what do you want? So she immediately was like forgiven. She left because she was also very scared of my friend. I was like, cool. So now we just have Matt and Susan. So Matt, who had his own, you had a nice car. Took him a while, but my friend broke him down. He cried in the parking lot of IHOP. And then, of course, was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, you're forgiven. Just don't fucking do it again. I'm gonna give a big spoiler alert that I'm still friends with him and he has pulled more shit like this. Because when you're 35 and you're at someone's house, you should get into a fight with somebody else in front of a whole group of people. You shouldn't do that. That's what he did. I should have known. Anyway, so I forgive him, whatever. Obviously, we're still friends, so I have issues. Susan, on the other hand, Susan would not back down. She was like doubling into it. She was like, no, you do talk about your mom too much. And no, the best part about this is that she knew my mom. She was my only friend that knew my mom because we went to elementary school together. So I was like, what? Yeah. Anyway, so she never backed down. And now, like, to this day, my best friend hates her. This is, doesn't matter how old I am, it's a long time ago. Yeah, so, yeah, Susan, I did eventually forgive Susan myself just because I'm the bigger person and I'm a mature adult. I was a teenager at the time, but still, I went through some shit, so I knew to just forgive her. But really, to this day, me and my best friend, whenever we go or drive by IHOP, we'll like text each other and be like, IHOP parking lot. So the moral of the story is, get yourself a badass best friend, make some frenemies who are still your friends, and eat some pancakes at IHOP. Thank you.
Okay, so who else has added Susan to their burn book? I just need to know. That person's dead to me. You can talk about your mom anytime you want. Also, did anyone else picture the IHOP parking lot like a Western? Like I felt like tumbleweed was gonna happen, and like 2 people having a stand down. So like, note to self, exactly, thank you. So next time you go in, exactly, thank you. So next time you all go to an IHOP parking lot, just be aware that there might be some sort of things going down. So, okay. My very good friends here, so don't get in a fight with me. You know where we're going to be. Okay, our next storyteller. Oh my goodness. Okay, if you have ever heard of the moth, have we heard of the moth before? Okay, so if you ever heard of the moth or seen the moth or anything like that, this person actually hosts the moth. That means that this person is probably judging me, and we're having a Frenemy host off right now. He has actually, so he is a director, a writer, producer, a comedian. Obviously he hosts the Moth in Ann Arbor, so you can go see him there. He also has won the Grand Slam a few times, which you don't know. If you don't know what that is, if you're a sports person or if you're not a sports person, it's a big deal to win these things. And he's also featured on the Moth Radio Hour. So let's give a warm welcome to his first time on this stage to tell a story, Amir.
I used to work at this independent bookstore in Berkeley, California, where the vibe, the culture was all peace and conflict resolution and love. So when there was tension between me and my coworker, Jay, it was tough to destroy him. I mean, technically we were friends, but I would never let that get in the way of hate. You know what I mean? I absolutely hated Jay. This is Jay. We had one cash register in the store. If you've ever run a cash register, maybe you've done this. At 4 p.m. you run the X report. Right? What that means is that cash register spits out all the money you're supposed to have. And then you add up all the credit card stuff and the stuff in the register, make sure they're the same amount, right? It is as boring and as low-key as it sounds. But when Jay did it, he made it seem like he was starring in his own personal action movie franchise. He'd be like, oh yeah, baby, it's X time. Let's do it. Like it was landing a plane on the Hudson and throwing it all at the same time. Like, step back, bitches, I'm gonna do these bad boys. Like, Jay, you're counting dimes. And he'd always try to one-up me. I was shelving a copy of Macbeth. Remember this? He goes, done that. Once I had diarrhea, screaming diarrhea for 72 hours, I heard all of Shakespeare. I was like, wow, like Shakespeare intended. We were waiting for the bus and we saw a Buddhist monk, which occasionally happens in Berkeley. And he goes, Freddie goes, I joined a Buddhist monastery once, nailed it. I actually had to go because they're like, there's nothing we can teach you. Which I didn't believe until I realized the Zen master must be like, holy shit, how do I tell this fuckwit that he is as dumb as a yak's nutsack? So that he thinks it's a compliment and leaves. Got it. There's nothing we can teach you. It's ambiguous. I hated him. It's very simple why, right? Our little bookstore was about equality, and Jay thought that he was better than everyone else, when in fact, I was better than everyone else. And he wouldn't admit it. Frankly, it was rude. Every shift, we took turns being store DJ. Every single shift, Jay would play for the entire term Ryan Adams. Every day, Ryan Adams. Okay? It was my turn once, and I just picked some random album that I found. It's called Piping Hot, a Celtic bagpipe celebration. Just to see if it was as tedious as it sounded. Answer, yeah. 14 tracks, every single one the same. Put it on, Jay's like, what is this garbage, man? It's driving me crazy. And that settled it. Every single shift, my turn, piping hot. Let's turn it off, man, turn it up. Oh, JJ, listen, they're on the third solo in Bells of Tipperary. It gets good, it gets good. So, you know, we were up for a promotion at some point, and it was a very straightforward job. There was a new computer system, and it was a job to enter in the orders for the new books. You probably all know this, but like every book on the back has this 10-digit number, something like that, the ISBN number, the ISBN number. We call it the biz. It stands for is book number. Is book number. It's a Russian invention. Very simple to order books, right? You just type in the ISBN, you type in the quantity, a couple days later you get the book, right? It sounds easy, but you have to think about it. At an independent bookstore, having the exact quantity of the books is very critical, right? You don't want to have a lot of unsold stock. You want to make sure that when a customer comes into your store and asks if you've got this new book that everyone's reading, you can say, no, you don't. And that is the kind of business thinking that has made independent bookstores so successful and so very, very rich. So Jay had been there for years longer than me, and I got the promotion. Did I brag about it? Of course I did, because it's trash, it sucks. In fact, I thought about hiring a parade of bagpipers to march in the store to celebrate my arrival. One of the very first books I ordered, remember this, it was by this guy who had been on Oprah, Rodney Yee. It was called Rodney Yee's Yoga, Poetry of the Body. And on the cover was Rodney Yee himself, naked, except for this white diaper, kneeling, arms outstretched, and down his back was this epic, majestic braid, so long it just swished the tops of his buttocks, like a horse's tail swatting flies. Had it been any longer, he could have looped it through the front and just sort of flossed his crotch at me. Of course, I was very mature about it. I held it up and like, Jay, I found the yearbook from your monastery. Nice. You guys got some cool stuff over there. Jay took this as an act of war. He retaliated in the most irritating way possible. He brought his guitar to work. And it wasn't some humble, low-key, like beat-up old guitar. No, his guitar was silver. It was chrome-plated top to bottom. What possible use does anyone have for a chrome-plated guitar? Do you only play country music awards? Are you a castaway signaling a ship? Even then, the captain would be like, "This looks like someone's in trouble. We should rescue them." No, hold on. Got a guitar. Turn around. Look at this guy. And of course, he played in the store, and he only played Ryan Adams. So I was like, "Wow, cool guitar, Jay. So do you know Summer '69?" He's like, "Not Brian Adams. It's Ryan Adams." Sorry, my bad. Do you know everything I do it for you? Stop! I then got a call one morning from the store. They said, "Amir, you gotta come down. The books you ordered, they came in. This is a problem." I come down to the store, and instead of like the 5 boxes we normally get, there were dozens and dozens of boxes with maybe like over 1,000 books. And I say books, what I mean is 1,000 copies of one book. Rodney Yee's Yoga, Poetry of the Body. First thought, oh my God, Jay, how did you do this? How could you sabotage me? How could you stoop so low? How could you sabotage the store? Second thought, oh, I think I know how this happened. I think I was so busy rubbing Jay's face in it that in the quantity box, instead of typing 7, I typed in the entire ISBN number. So now, floor to ceiling, majestic man braids as far as the eye can see, for everyone. And folks, if you're ever in a Cold War with your coworker and that happens, there's no coming back from that. You've lost. I braced myself for what Jay was going to say. Absolutely braced. I knew it was going to be awful. He came back with the most evil thing your coworker could possibly do. He said nothing. He was just happy. And I think it's because, while it feels good to beat an enemy, it must feel amazing to crush a friend. Thank you.
Wanted Amir to say, like Oprah would be like, and underneath your chairs is a copy of this book.
I had enough of them.
We're all disappointed now, Amir. Thanks for bringing down the house. No, just kidding. Also, did you realize that you actually worked with Buddha? I mean, he had nothing else
Pretty
to
nice.
learn. Like you didn't know that he was a Ryan Adams fan, but now we know about Ryan Adams and Buddha. Thank you so much. Our next storyteller is a first-time storyteller, so we want to make sure that we give a warm welcome. They are a self-published author. They've written in novels and in magazines, and they have actually wanted to, they're in the process of writing a memoir about their high school experience, which I think Frenemies, as we can have seen, is a very good thing to be able to share that with us tonight. So he's going to be reading an excerpt of that tonight. So please, let us get a warm welcome for our very first-time storyteller, for Randall.
Thank you. Hello. So my story of Frenemies starts with 9th grade gym class. Very scary time for a lot of people, and me especially. Because if you can imagine, I was shorter and scrawnier than the person you see here today, and so the way the gym class worked was we had this line up in this huge gymnasium, and we had to line up alphabetically, and so my last name was Cooper, and so I was next to Boomhauer and Sarnowski, and Boomhauer was the linebacker on the football team. He was huge, he was ripped, he was super athletic, and he was also handsome, which just added to his intimidation. And then there was Sarnowski to my right, and he was also huge, extremely ripped, could play any position on the football team. And he also just looked like a rabid pit bull, and his whole family looked like a pack of rabid pit bulls. They were very scary people, and so of course I was sandwiched between the two of them, and they would always like punch me in the arm, or they would jab me like this, just somewhere on my body, or they would, poke and prod, and, it was whatever. But then one day, Boomhauer chopped me in the throat, like right here. He chopped me so hard that it felt like my esophagus was like collapsing into itself. And so I was coughing like crazy, my eyes were watering, and my eyes were like all red, and like Boomhauer was freaking out. He's like, "Oh my God, dude, are you okay? Are you okay?" And he put his arm around me, and he's like, "Dude, are you okay? I am so sorry, dude, are you okay?" And I was like, I'm okay. And I was getting better with each cough, but at first I was freaking out. I was like, "Oh my God, my throat is dead, I'm not gonna be able to breathe." But Sarnowski, he encouraged me and said, "Dude, you're a bitch." Okay, I'm just dying over here. No biggie. And the teacher didn't even notice, he just kept walking down the line, checking if everyone had their gym clothes on. Because that's how you got credit. If you wore your gym clothes, you got credit for the day. And so I was, just waiting there, just slowly recovering. And that, that wasn't the worst of it, I would say. I also had very sensitive nipples at the time, and they occasionally gave me titty twisters, but they didn't know. Like, I really just bottled in the pain and the screeching whenever they gave me titty twisters. So it was rare that they did, you know what I mean? I probably should have told the gym teacher, but I feel like he should have known, like, come on, like, I shouldn't have put, like, the scrawny, small guy in between the two ripped buff dudes. But nevertheless, that's how it shaked out. But the worst of it, I feel like, was the weight room, because the weight room was just a room that felt like a torture chamber with all the machinery. It was all very scary and intimidating to me because I was totally out of my element. But, what can you do? But I think one of the things that annoyed me so much was like people were like, they really noticed my body and they were like, "Dude, are you anorexic?" "No." "Are you bulimic?" "No." "Do you like eat anything at all?" "No." "Do you jerk off a lot?" "No." My friend Penny asked me that question, and he was like, "Well, maybe you should." Because that's how I bulked up. And to his credit, he was skinny like me, and he did put on some mass a year later. And I was like, okay, this is weird. But with my, with my sensitive nipples, my friend Jefferson knew that I had very sensitive nipples. And one day he told Sarnowski that I had sensitive nipples. And I was like, oh man, my secret's out. This is not good. And I was at the chest fly machine. I don't know if you're familiar, but this is basically the workout. You sit down and you do this. But do you see how vulnerable my nipples were in that state? So one day the teacher briefly walked out of the room. I'm on the machine, unfortunately. Sarnowski swoops in as I'm doing the workout, and he squeezes my nipples so hard. Oh my God, he was like about to rip it off. He was like, he had a vice grip on it. I was like, oh no, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs. Screaming, and again, tears running down my cheeks. And gym teacher comes hulking back in. He said, what the hell was that? And everything returned back to normal, like we were the toys in Toy Story. No one made a beep. No one did anything. Everyone froze up, including myself. And I had tears in my eyes. I was fighting back, and the gym teacher was hawking all of us down. He's like, well, whatever that was, knock it the hell off. And then, you know, the next day, I would receive my daily dose of a punch to the arm, courtesy of Boomhauer or Sarnowski. But, you know, they were kind of frenemies in a way because I felt like I was just their little brother. That I wasn't really their enemy. Like, I had seen them treat other people maliciously, and I was like, okay, I'm glad it's not that bad. Like, I kind of like got off easy, minus the whole throat collapsing part, but like, Boomhauer put his arm around me, and then it was okay, but still, like, you shouldn't hurt people like that. That's not very cool. But, so yeah, that was my experience in 9th grade gym. Thank you.
Anybody who is coming on stage for the first time to tell a story. First off, that's amazing. And then the things that they share, and they open up and be vulnerable to all of you. I mean, I will never look at a bulked up person the same again. I'm now going to understand how they got bulked up and just keep moving on. I'm also going to be, you know, thankful that you shared about your condition. And I'm just so glad that you shared that with us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hey, are you all having a good time? I love hearing that, especially because we have events coming up and I wanted to make sure you know about them. So next month is June 15th. This is the third Thursday of the month. The next, let's just say, is themed Pride. So all storytellers, including the hosts, are going to be part of the LGBTQIA community, and we're super excited about that. So it's already on the website, so please buy your ticket because that one's going to sell out for sure, so we're super excited. We also are looking for storytellers for the July show because that one is called Spark. So whether that's a catalyst of change or a time that you felt a spark with somebody or even within yourself. So please make sure you reach out to me or let's just say on Facebook or Instagram and we can get you connected because we are looking for a few more storytellers for that. We have August too, but I don't want to bore you with all those details. Okay, so the next storyteller, the next storyteller I've known for 20 years, and she gave me carte blanche to give the intro. She knows all of my secrets, so I'm a little nervous about that too. So please don't go and try to pay her off. If you are going to do that though, just make sure if there's a ransom letter, you're going to actually use the magazine cutouts. I feel like it's just a lot more effort and commitment as opposed to an email or a text, right? It's just lazy nowadays. Anyway. This woman I've known for 20 years, don't do the math other than the fact that we're, 21 now. Just kidding. But she is an amazing person, not just as one of my closest friends, but she is in grad school, she is a dog mom, stepmom, organized the litter club in her neighborhood, and she's a very hilarious person and a very close person to me. So I would really like first time storyteller too, by the way. So please give a warm welcome to Carrie Ann.
Thank you. introduction. I'm still feeling some trauma after Randall's story because I feel like every single person here had to have had some like terrible gym situation. So here we go. Also, thanks to the shout out for the Fun Litter Pickup Club. If you guys like trash and trashy people, but not really trashy people, great people, you can always come to Detroit and pick up trash with us. Ask me about it later. Okay, so my story, first of all, are there any Jennies or Jennifers in this crowd? Raise your hand. Thank you, great, awesome. Okay, so this story is actually an origin story about how my frenemy became my frenemy, and it happens to be at her wedding on my 21st birthday, the New Year's Eve after 9/11. So, it's not a sad story. And it's not a great story. So we grew up together. I grew up in a very small town, graduated with 36 people from high school. Yes, I said 36. And she was one of those people. So I've known her since the 4th grade. We were not friends when we were younger, so my definition of frenemy is actually more of a, we're friends, we don't talk for 10 years. We're friends, we don't talk for 10 years. And now we sort of hug in the bar when we see each other because we have to kind of situation. And so we were friends at the time because my best friend from elementary school was not her. Decided to date some guy in high school and disappeared off the face of the earth. So I got stuck with Jenny. And so Jenny and I graduate in 1998, nine years ago. And she starts immediately dating dudes on the internet. In 1998, catfishing was real. That's where catfishing originated, people. You could be talking to a 13-year-old boy or a 50-year-old predator, but either way, it's a felony. So, she meets this dude, falls in love with him, moves to Virginia. Nobody moves to Virginia, or West Virginia, but really, Virginia's okay. I don't know. So, she moves to Virginia, decides to get married to this dude, wants 4 bridesmaids from Michigan to come down to this wedding. I was one of those 4. The other 3 were part of our graduating class. 2 of them backed out after the bachelorette party, which I threw, not because it was a shitty party, but because of her behavior. She was the mean girl. She loved being mean. She loved telling you she was mean. She was Jenny. Jenny is Karen, but spelled with a B. So, Jenny meets this guy, gets engaged, decides to have this wedding. 2 of the bridesmaids back out, so she has to pick 2 women from Virginia. One of whom she's known for about 6 months. That's very important for the rest of the story. So, get down there, 2 of us. 1 drives, 1 flies, because I have to fly to Dulles 3 months after 9/11. All of my cavities were searched. It was terrifying. I get there, and you think that'd be a good thing, but it really wasn't. So I get there, and, I'm asking, this is important for later too, so you're still taking me to the airport after the wedding, right? Okay, I'm gonna leave that there. So, wedding happens. We finally meet these other 2 bridesmaids. The night before the wedding, she chooses the maid of honor, and it's the one she's known for 6 months. Wedding starts the next morning, 7 a.m. One of the bridesmaids comes into the room I'm staying in, which happens to house all of the dresses, including hers, and runs back out, slams the door. Old house, shitty locks. Guess what happens? I'm stuck with the dresses in the guest bedroom. She thinks that I locked myself in there because I'm pissed at her for some reason. I should have been, but I actually wasn't at this moment because I was still just trying to find the good thing about her to get me through this week. And so, I hear her scream crying on the other side of the door. Yes, scream crying. We all know what that sounds like. And this is all she did all day long on her wedding day. She screamed crying on the other side of the door. I find this hilarious because I have to climb out of a bedroom window with all of the dresses, land on top of a dining room chair, and be about my merry way. So, I do. I get it done. We go to, she's drinking now, by the way. 7:30 in the morning. We go to the salon, early. You see my hair. This does not do anything. You can't curl things and watch. I saw things burning in front of my face. It was some Virginia salon, terrifying. There is booze, so she's drinking again. Starts scream crying because one of the other bridesmaids, not me, I looked like grandma's perm, situation happening. One of the other bridesmaids' hair looked better than hers, so scream crying ensued. Got to the wedding. 6-month maid of honor had an abusive boyfriend. Shows up at church. Jenny kicks him out. Maid of honor doesn't show up to the reception at all. So we go to the hotel where the reception is located, and the bride had told us that the reception started at 7. Turns out it started at 6. Guess what I got? A phone call. Scream crying. Where are you at? We have to start now. So 6 p.m. Also, she's not drinking. Again, still this whole time. Get down there, 7:30 p.m. It happens. Mind you, I did not describe my dress yet. I will do it in a moment. I have been in 11 weddings. This was the worst dress of all of them. 2001. You'd think it was something straight out of the 80s. So my dress, we'll just get this out of the way. Satin-ish, supposed to be burgundy, turned out fuchsia. Long princess skirt. So this thing, and cap sleeves. She had all of the bridesmaids' dresses sent to her before the wedding. I generally tend to fit well into my normal size and don't have to get any alterations, but it doesn't matter because at this point, one of the other bridesmaids from Virginia has tried my dress on and it fits her better. So I got her dress, which was a size too big. You know what I said? Fuck it, this thing's ugly. I'm not spending any more money than I already have on this wedding. My dad, to his last breath, did say that she owed me about $1,000 for this wedding. This is 2001, people. That's a lot of money back then. So we end up in the bathroom. Her dress was huge, tulle, hideous mess. It looked like we were in the early 80s on purpose, but it was 2001. And she had to go to the bathroom. So I'm holding the tulle up. She's on the toilet, scream crying. And then we get to puke mode. And one of the other bridesmaids, thankfully, had followed me into the bathroom because she ripped one of those metal trash cans off the wall and held it in front of her face. While I'm holding her dress up, she's scream crying, puking, peeing, and makeup is running down her face. People are trying to take pictures with film. You have to develop, people. This is not a cell phone. I tell them no because it's not right. I am so mad at myself for that moment. She should have had all of that documented and she would have passed out immediately afterwards, 7:30 p.m. on her wedding night. That marriage lasted 8 months. I wasn't invited to the other 2. So this is when we stopped talking. Because the next morning she was supposed to take me to the airport, remember? Now I think they had a car phone. Because there were no cell phones at this point. I didn't have a credit card. All I had was the cash on me. And then a taxi from where we were to Dulles was $150. I didn't have that kind of cash on me, so I'm just like, oh, what am I going to do? She starts giving me, she's like, I'm not taking you to the airport. I'm on my way already. Okay, great. How am I going to get there? She starts giving me her husband's cousin's numbers from Virginia that I've never met. And I'm like, okay, cool, awesome. Thankfully, the other Michigan bridesmaid that also toughed us one out had driven and was too hungover to leave when she was supposed to, so she drove me to the airport, which is awesome. So we didn't talk for 10 years, and the interesting thing about this story is that a couple months later I decided I'm going to do something good. I'm going to get some good out of this wedding. I'm going to donate this dress because somebody can at least wear this for a Halloween costume. So I'm like, well, I gotta dry clean this thing because I can't just give this to somebody dirty. I've gotta wash the sadness off of this beast. And so I throw that in my car with all my fancy clothes, and I'm like, I'm just gonna get all my dry cleaning done all at once. I packed my car the night before. Living in East Lansing, it's not like I'm in some scary place, right? Walk out to the car, window's broken. They stole everything but left that damn dress. That's it.
I just want to emphasize that story happened on her 21st birthday. So she turned 21 and she went to someone else's wedding. So tonight we hope you have a drink and we celebrate your 21st birthday. This happened yesterday. Thank you. Thank you, Carrie Ann. Our next storyteller, oh, by the way, we are only down to 2 left. Sad. Aww. Thank you. So our next storyteller has the most beautiful name. She actually just finished a sketch writing class and has also just started a clown class and has a clown class cabaret debut. I can't say that 10 times fast. But that's going to be on June 18th at Planet Ant. So please give it up for Natalie.
So, the church that I grew up in was not a cult. But it sure acted like one. The way I describe it to people is everything minus the snake dancing. Think Jim Baker if no one ever gave him any money. For music, imagine the Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir. Except nobody can double clap, and only 3 people have realized that the key just changed. Growing up like that came with the stigma. You were the kid on the block that went to the weird church. But for the most part, people cut you some slack when you were small. But once you got into your teenage years, you go from being the kid who goes to the really weird church to the Stanford prison experiment. I'm so glad you guys laughed at that. It took me 20 years to laugh about that. This feeling of being in prison was not helped by the fact that I not only had to go to church 3 times a week and twice on Sundays, but I also went to a very small church school where I had only 4 people in my graduating class. For those of you who said, oh, I had only 3 people in my graduating class, oh, I wish. This, like any other inordinately strict environment, had in-groups and out-groups. Positions of power are invented by the religious institutions themselves, and arbitrarily rules are dealt out, oftentimes on a whim, and enforced by any member of the in-group. The in-group consisted of preachers, their families, and their children. It could also include families associated with preachers and their kids. I was in the out-group. I was never able to conform to arbitrary rules that changed from one situation to another, rules that were in full force for others, but for some, not so much. There are degrees of punishment, I would say, for people in the out-group, such as myself. Most of the punishment consisted of social shunning. Bullying was not just prevalent, bullying was the norm. It's very true. The social shunning behavior that was exemplified by the adults was mirrored by the kids, especially the teenagers, especially the teenage girls. Growing up in the church, I did not have any real friends that I could trust. I only had frenemies. The boys had problems with keeping their hands to themselves, and the girls were only nice to me when they felt like it. In this environment, I had one particularly spectacular frenemy, Vicky. Vicky was the meanest bitch to ever be baptized. But Vicky, like a lot of the teenagers growing up in that environment, had a unspeakably hard life. Vicky's attitude towards me changed like the wind. Vicky would tell me to my face that she hated my guts. No holding back. In a weird way, she was actually one of the bravest girls in the youth group. She was brave because she would not tell just me, but anyone exactly how she felt and what she thought. And the general consensus on her thoughts and feelings towards me were that of abject hatred. Very hostile, lots of name-calling. But there were times she would turn to me for friendship. This mostly happened when the other girls had ganged up on her, so the bully had become bullied. But when we did hang out, it was great because we could be completely honest. We talked about sex, drinking, pot, all that stuff. I knew things about her that no one else knew. But as soon as the other girls made up with her, she would go right back to being nasty to me. The nastiest thing she ever did to me happened at church camp. When I was 14, my parents went on a cruise. And instead of paying for a babysitter, they sent me to church camp. Church? Yes, Jesus Christ. Jesus take the wheel. And Jesus looking at that wheel, I don't even want that wheel. So my parents went on a cruise and left me at church camp. Church camp is not summer camp, for those of you who don't understand. There were no canoes, there were no crafts, there was no archery. There was, however, a large gravel parking lot, a broken basketball hoop, a pavilion that could seat 2,000 people, and several dorm rooms that were periodically condemned by the Board of Health. It was a veritable hell. There were lots of bats. At this stupid church camp, there was this stupid boy with a stupid face, with stupid clothes, who tried to talk to me about stupid things. As chance would have it, Vicky saw this stupid guy trying to talk to me and decided in that moment that God had told her that this guy was going to be her future husband. And how dare I talk to the guy that everyone knows she was in love with? She was going to get back at me. I had no fucking clue what was going on or what was about to happen. Later that day, we were walking up the stairs of the dorms to our rooms looking for rogue bats. Halfway up the stairs, Vicky outpaced me, reached the top of the stairs at breakneck speed. She looked around to see if anyone was there, then turned to me as I was coming up behind her and suddenly pushed me. I caught myself on the rail. I was hit with this sudden realization that she just tried to push me down a flight of stairs on purpose. The disappointment on her face that I did not fall backwards and break every bone in my body was unforgettable. And I did not tell any of the adults that this happened because the adults were crazier than she was. Fact. Verifiable fact. Vicky and I, in our own way, moved past that. We eventually made it to graduation. For everyone in the youth group, graduation and turning 18 meant that our lives were our own business. If you wanted to smoke a joint, it was your business. If you wanted to give some random guy a blowjob, it was your business. Choke that chicken's sister. I did. Even though I had this newfound freedom, my frenemy experience was not over. You see, this story is not just about Vicky. It is also about Jill. One Sunday, right after graduation, Jill approached me. This was unusual because Jill never fucking talked to me. With Jill, I never really knew where I stood. She never went out of her way to hang out with me or be even remotely nice to me, but at the same time, she never did anything overtly mean to me. So I'm sitting there after talking to Jesus. I did a good talk. She did. I'm just thinking to myself, what does this bitch want? She said, I have more copies of the pictures from the party this past weekend. And I'm glad that somebody reminded us before I came up here that back then you had to get your pictures developed in a photo lab. You would have to get physical prints. And oftentimes people would get doubles. I don't know how many of you remember that. Get doubles just in case something happened to your original. Well, she hands me this envelope of pictures from the party that our parents threw for the youth group. She had taken out every single picture that had me in it. and gave me the doubles on top of that. That was existentially bad. In comparison, Vicky just hated me in a very typical mean girl way. But Jill wished I didn't even exist. To this day, Jill did one of the meanest things anyone's ever done to me. I grew up around a lot of craziness, and that took a kick. Now, I promised myself that I would never let anyone treat me like that again. But that's a bad promise. It's impossible. Life is full of too many assholes to promise yourself that. However, I have met a lot of good people since then. Good people like Natalie Walker, who was so unbelievably kind to reach out to me and involve me in Let's Just Say, where I have the chance to share my stories with all of you. And I would like to thank those of you who have reached out to me and befriended me since I moved from Ohio. It's not easy for me. I have a hard time being in new environments with new people in new situations. And I have pushed, I know I have a smile on my face and I hug people a lot. I hug even if I don't know you, I'm like, wait, I didn't know that person and I just hugged them. What did I just do? But it's very hard for me, and when you see me, I'm pushing myself. So I would like to thank those of you who have reached out to me and befriended me since I moved here from Ohio. Your kindness means more than you realize. Your kindness is what helps heal the hurts. Your kindness makes it better.
Sorry, and I'm sure you've all added Vicky to your list, as well as church camp. Apparently, we know that that's an evil doing place. So, with the broken basketball court and the parking lot, reminding me of the IHOP. So, maybe we're just gonna put all of our frenemies into the IHOP parking lot. I'll see y'all there. Anyway, we are at our last storyteller, which is sad and happy at the same time, but we've enjoyed having you all here, so thank you to the audience for being here tonight. Before I introduce the next storyteller, I want you to know, in Go Comedy, there is so many things going on here. It is insane to keep it up, but there are so many great things, so please go to gocomedy.net. They have shows Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and there's a lot of really funny shows, and that's what I love about Let's Just Say, because it is a little bit different. Because we can hear really funny stories, but we can hear really heartwarming stories, which is what I love about the humanity of it all. But the last thing is that after I introduce our last storyteller, I'm going to bring everybody back up on stage, and you folks are going to be our paparazzi, and you're going to take photos of everybody on stage, and then just really give them a really large warm applause and thanking them for coming out. So, that being said, I'm done talking about that. Our last storyteller is also a staple to the stage and to Gemini Junior. This person is also on Go Comedy's Dragon Army, which is also and lots of things. She's also part of a really cool production that I was so excited to read about. She's going to be James in James and the Giant Peach. I have a production coming up at the end of July, so I really want you to give a warm welcome to Malin.
Quite a doozy to tell you all. This is about my current best friend, Josiah. Great guy, love him. How a couple years ago, how he almost became my enemy. This story starts coming home to his house for a sleepover after homeschool homecoming. I was not homeschooled. He was, and I was invited, and I'll do anything for a bit. And homeschool homecoming sounded hilarious, so obviously I had to go. Duh. And so yeah, we were having a normal fun night, and his friends, my friends too, Jeremy and Nat, we were there. We were in his basement, that's where his room is, we were having a fun time. It was about 3 in the morning, we're telling ghost stories, because that's what you do when you're in high school and you're at a sleepover. And so it's around that 3 a.m. point, the energy's starting to dip. Josiah goes upstairs to use the bathroom. He comes back, and he's like, guys. And we're like, what? He's like, I think someone broke into my house. Josiah messes with people all the time. So I'm calling bullshit on this. And spoiler alert, it was bullshit. It was bullshit. So I'm like, no, shut up. But he knew the energy was already weird because we were telling ghost stories. And I was like, dude, no one broke into your house. If someone broke into your house, your dogs would have started barking, obviously, because you have dogs. And he's like, no, we all have to go upstairs and check it right now. And I'm like, okay, we can all go upstairs. That makes you happy. He's like, no, we have to be protected. I'm like, what? And so him and Matt, this is also, I forgot to mention, Josiah's the kid with a bunch of weapons in his closet. Great guy, love him, but lots of weapons. He gets a bandana for some reason, so does Matt, and they both are matching. Utility belt with a BB gun, a machete, a giant knife over here. And both of them, I don't know how we had not only one, but 2 fully loaded crossbows. Not a bow and arrow, a crossbow, like Wednesday Addams. And he said, all right, let's go. And I'm like, what? If there's one would work just fine. I don't think we even need one, but okay. And so we go upstairs, and I'm not buying any of this. And we're like the Scooby-Doo gang, just going upstairs. And I'm like some shitty rendition of Scooby-Doo. And he's going around, it's like pitch black upstairs. It's like dead silent. His poor family is trying to sleep. And there's a group of teenagers, Scooby-Doo gang, going around the living room trying to figure out if there's an intruder. And like I said, I'm not buying any of this. And I'm just trying to keep the mood light. Because Matt's now getting into it with Josiah. Like, okay, let's go find an intruder. Let's shoot him with our crossbow. And Jeremy's really panicked. He's really anxious. He's not liking this. So I'm trying to lighten the mood. So like I said, it was pitch black in this basement. And so I'm lying on his living room floor. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Look at the ceiling. Well, you can't see it. Oh, well. I'm doing shadow puppets. I'm literally going like that. Just for like 10 minutes trying to keep the mood, you know. And Josiah's like, this is serious. I'm like, babe, no, it's not. It's really not, I promise you. And so they're looking around, they're like, ugh, we can't find anyone if someone broke in. And I'm like, well, yeah, obviously. And so we go downstairs, we're chilling, and Josiah starts feeling around his pockets after he gets all the stuff off. And we're chilling, he's like, I can't find my phone. I'm like, okay, it's probably in the room, let me call it. It's now like almost 4 in the morning. This has been going on forever. I call his phone, it doesn't ring. He's like, my phone always rings. I'm like, it's 4 in the morning, you put it on Do Not Disturb. No, my phone always rings. Someone, I'm not even kidding, the intruder must have pickpocketed it from me when I was upstairs. I'm like, no, there's nobody up there. And he's like, no, there absolutely is now. I'm going back up there, and Matt, you're coming with me. They get the utility belt on, the BB gun, machete, knife, crossbow. Jeremy's having a panic attack in the corner now. I feel awful for him. And so I'm just laughing at this whole situation because this is crazy. And he goes up to Jeremy, not even kidding. Like I said, I do love him. He's my best friend. This was a couple years ago. We're cool now. He goes up with a giant knife, because of course he had another giant knife. He goes up to Jeremy, he goes, if somebody breaks into this room and we don't come back, protect Malin. And I'm like, sexist, but okay. Alright. Jeremy's sobbing, because he's freaking out. He's holding his knife. The knife's going everywhere. And I was like, dude, this is crazy shit. He's like, no, it's not. You're not taking this serious. And I'm like, dude, chill out. And he's like, okay, so you two need to stay in here if someone breaks in. We're going to go out and find my phone. And you cannot open this door unless you hear the password. And unless I come to the door and knock and say the password. And I'm like, what could this password possibly be? So I ask him, what's the password, Josiah? And it's not a joke. So serious, so serious. He goes, pussy lip. I said, pussy lip? And he's like, yeah, nobody would ever guess the password's pussy lip. And so, also just like quick, like sideline here real quick. Just imagine you're an intruder, like if there was an intruder, you're breaking into this house, and upstairs. They go looking for said intruder. I'm dealing with Jeremy who's sobbing. I just want to go to bed. I had to already party at homeschool homecoming. I'm tired. And I don't want to deal with this bullshit right now. And so I go looking for the phone, and sure enough, within 5 minutes, I find it wedged between a couch cushion and his couch. I grab it out, and I open it. Sure enough, it's on Do Not Disturb. Like I said, that's why was it pickpocketed from an intruder? No, it was on Do Not Disturb. And I was like, oh my God, his phone's right here. Nobody grabbed his phone. There's nobody upstairs. Cool. I was like, he can come back and get his phone. And Jeremy's like, no, go upstairs and tell them to stop. I just want this to end. And I go, no, I'm not. You know why? I'm going to go up those stairs and go, hey, I found her. And I'm going to get shot with a crossbow. Not happening today. That's not how I'm going out. My last night is not going to be homeschool homecoming. Absolutely not. And so he comes back to the room and he's like, I couldn't find my phone. The intruder must have left my phone. I was like, it's right here, dumbass. He's like, oh, and I was like, I was on Do Not Disturb. He's like, oh, okay. Like, I guess we can all go to bed now, but I'll keep a watch on the door all night. I'll let you guys sit. And I'm like, let it go. And to this day, when I brought this story up, I bring it up like once a year, and I'm like, why did you go so far to mess with him? He's like, I wasn't messing with you. There was an intruder. I was like, no, there wasn't. And so this is what we go back and forth on. He's a great guy. We're still best friends, but that was the night he almost became my enemy because it wasted an hour and a half of my life when I wanted to go to sleep after homeschool homecoming. Thank you. Josiah's house for a zombie apocalypse. Not really sure if it's going to be, we'll be okay, but at least we'll have the crossbow and we'll be fine. But if the zombie says pussy lip, I don't know what's going to happen. Didn't think I was going to say that as storytelling, but hey, you never know what you're going to say here. All right, so I just want to say thank you so much for everybody for coming. We are we are done for the evening. Please come look for tickets for the June 15th show. It's going to be an amazing for the Pride show, and I just want to say thank you so much. Please, everybody, storytellers, please help come to the stage.